Throughout your entire life, there's been things you understand and things you didn't understand. And some of those things you didn't understand hurt you. And some of them you investigated and you learned from and you made sure that they wouldn't happen again. And some of them you did nothing with. And that's the case in the past. And maybe that's the case in the present. So you can imagine back in your bedroom at home, there's 5 things you should have done that you hadn't, that you haven't. And so when you walk into that room, you get all nervous because the things that you haven't done yell at you because you haven't done them. And what they yell is, here's a bunch of negative possible worlds ready to emerge that you're ignoring. And if you ignore them, then they'll emerge. So don't pay your taxes and see what sort of world emerges. And you think, well, that's a piece of paper when you look at it. But it's not a piece of paper. It's a bunch of potential nasty worlds that are lying on your desk, and they're likely to manifest themselves unless you do something about it. And your brain is smart enough to know that, even though your eyes can't see it. And you walk into your room, you won't look at your damn desk because it's covered with crap that you won't look at. And the more your life is like that, the more stress you have. So imagine, and I think this is how it works. I think the amygdala, which tags things with fear, has access to the memory of the things you don't understand. And all it says is, something went wrong here. And maybe you have 1,000 of those things in your memory. Something went wrong here. And that's a memory that you remember that hurts you when you remember it. And then there's another part of your brain that says, here's things that happened to me that I understand. And then there's a ratio. Things you haven't dealt with to things you have dealt with. The higher the ratio, the more cortisol your hypothalamus puts out, because your brain assumes that you don't know what the hell you're doing or where you are. And because you don't know, you should be in a state of emergency preparation. And that's, if you're in that state long enough, you will be one sick pup. And it might be mentally ill, depending on whatever your propensity is, but it could just as easily be physically ill. And let's see. And I don't think that matters, and this is what the research indicates too. I don't think that matters if the unknown material is in your past, that's painful memories, or if it's in your present, that's things you know you're avoiding, or if it's in your future, which is a place you're terrified of because you don't know what to do with it. And insofar as all of that territory that you inhabit from the past to the future is unexplored and chaotic, then your brain is going to be in an emergency state and it's going to make you ill. And if you're in a family like that, and lots of families are like that, right? They never fight. Nothing's ever wrong. They never discuss a problem. I had a client tell me last night, I'll tell you 2 stories and then I'll quit. Client told me last night, she was a Sikh woman. She knew a woman who'd been married for 70 years, 65 years. 20 minutes before she died, she told her husband that he had made her life a living hell and that she'd be nothing but a slave. And she figured that my client believed that she waited till she knew she was going to die to say that. So then, and my wife worked in the palliative care ward, and she was in there with a guy who was dying of cancer. And his wife used to come in and clip his nails about 1/8 of an inch too short. Right, and this happens all the time. And the reason this happens to people is because they leave their lives cluttered messes, and they don't take the chaos that they know is there and go through the work to turn it into something pristine and functional. And it does them in. And we never see any, we don't see any recognition of this sort of thing in any of our psychotherapeutic, especially our psychotherapeutic models of causality. You know, because, and I think it's because we're not willing to take the ethical bull by the horns and understand that human health is a matter of moral action, perhaps more than it is a matter of anything else. And I think the reason that we don't want to admit to that or even to discuss it generally is because I don't think people want to think of their own lives in that manner because it would burden them with too much responsibility. And so I think all the coverage, the sort of pseudo-scientific objective claptrap that goes along with much of our diagnostic strategizing is a form of sin of omission designed to shield us from what it is that we're doing that actually makes people sick. All right, well, that's good enough.